Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, something similar, but different. New. That's right, new podcast. Just very similar to a different podcast that we've done for a very long time. So, it's new football podcast. There's been a change of leadership, and with a change of leadership comes a change of podcast name, I guess. Yep, Mr. Williams is here with me talking football. And I guess you're going to get what the new name of it is by the title, so it's not going to be a spoiler if I tell you what the name of it is now. And I'm just working that out myself. While I ponder this, if you are checking us out on YouTube, just click that subscribe button and help the channel out. Go on. Do it. Go on. Love you. So, here we go. This is CookieCast, the Riverside Roundup. Right, we're off into the abyss. For a second there I thought we weren't off. I was like, oh my god, we're not, it's not recording. But I was wrong. I was just, my view was obscured. So here we are. It's that time of the week again. And that time of the week is football time. Fußballen. I'm here with my extensive knowledge of the round ball. Mr. Williams, rated on the internet as number one Middlesbrough fan. Of 2020, the scores are in.
Sketchy.
Tell you who's not here. Anybody else? There's no one else here. It's just me and him. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. CookieCast has decided to part ways with one of the football hosts. I believe it's actually the other way round. The other host has decided to part ways with CookieCast. For undisclosed reasons. Mr. Williams, I believe you want to address the elephant in the room so we can move on. So I'll hand over to you early this week and you can get it done.
Well, so obviously this is usually where either myself or Mr. P would welcome you along to another instalment of, what is it? YCSFFT or something like that? No, hang on, I've got that completely wrong.
I know we have a group.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
so it is.
It is
YCSTFFTT. You can't see the forest for the T's. However, as has been the case for the last 3, near 4 weeks or instalments, obviously the lack of a Mr. P has really provided a dearth of forest-based information that we can bring to the podcast. As was previously discussed, I don't really care about forest that much. So it is with a heavy heart that the YCSTFFTT is, let's say, temporarily shelved in the hope that he, comes back into the flock. Who knows? And in its place, now this is just a tester. This doesn't have to be the full-time name of the podcast, but we'll go with the first instalment of Cookie Cast Presents the Riverside Roundup.
Ooh. Yes. Oh, I like that. I like that.
There you go.
I am. That tickles me in places that are usually hard to reach.
And if we do like it, we can even twist it so that if Panas does come back on, we don't have to necessarily go back to "You Can't See the Forest for the Tees." We could even change it to some sort of river-based pun, as both stadiums do sit on a riverbank. So,
up there for thinking, down there for dancing. Okay, well, for now, I'm liking this. Does mean I'm gonna have to, make a whole new template for the podcast. There'll be a lot of copying and pasting going on. But I'm sure we can make something of the situation. I presume the format is going to be largely the same. So that brings us to the first question, and the first question is, what's been happening this week in football?
well, to once again horrifically date and timestamp this podcast, the first domestic cup final of the season has just been decided, or the lineup for it has just been decided, so to speak. So yesterday we had the first semi-final in the League Cup, which was between Tottenham and Brentford, and that finished 2-0 to Tottenham. So the first team going into the Carabao Cup final was Tottenham, and in that final they will play against the winner of tonight's game between Manchester United and Manchester City. And similar result there. It was 2-0 to Manchester City, meaning Tottenham versus Manchester City on the date yet undisclosed for the Carabao Cup final. Now, apparently, I don't know how true this is, but what they've said is they're not setting a date for the Carabao Cup final yet. They're just going to let it play out as long as possible, so the chance to be able to get fans in the stadium is increased.
Right.
So I think the idea was I'm sure I might have made this up, but I'm sure I saw something that was earmarking it for around April. But obviously, if it doesn't look as if the situation is going to get any better, then I'm assuming that will just get scrapped, and it'll just be played whenever it gets played, really.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously this is the fourth season in a row where Man City have made the final.
Wow.
So they are the 3-time defending champions. No team has ever won it 4 years in a row. So they're looking to make a bit of history here. There was a stat that showed up earlier on Twitter and Instagram, which was League Cup stat. Excuse me. Basically, there was it showed up there were 4 managers who had won the League Cup 4 times. I believe one of them was, strange enough, to bring it back to Forest-based stats, one of them was Brian Clough. If I can't find it, I'll be annoyed now. But there was 4 managers who'd won it 4 times, but none of them had won it 4 times in a row. And obviously, Pep can join that list if they win the cup final for this particular season. I also couldn't find anything about the date of the final. Let's see if I just go back into what I was looking at. Oh, here we go. Tottenham Hotspur, current champions Manchester City, will play in the final. The final will be on the 25th of April at Wembley Stadium, having been rescheduled from 28th of February 2021. So yeah, as a hope that by the time that April rolls around, obviously the stands won't be filled, but the hope is that they'll be able to at least accept some supporters into the stadium to make it somewhat feel more like a regulation game. Obviously, Wembley holds 90,000, so you'd argue that even if they could get 20,000 people in, it'll give at least some atmosphere to the game rather than just playing it behind closed doors with absolutely nobody there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Watch this space, I suppose.
Anything else? Week-wise? Any hirings and firings?
Nothing that I can think off the top of my head firings-wise. However, this is a little bit crazy. So, there has been a huge COVID outbreak at Derby County.
Okay.
As such, their entire first team squad and the manager, so Wayne Rooney, are having to self-isolate. They're scheduled to have an FA Cup game this weekend against Chorley. It's at Chorley as well. So, as discussed on last year's podcast, I've been to Chorley, and it's, how do I say this conservatively? A bit of a shithole. Doesn't have any segregation in the stand. It's basically just one big stand, one small stand, and then two basically like sheds that people just cram under. So that's going to be interesting. So the entirety of the first team squad is having to self-isolate. They're scheduled to play Chorley in the FA Cup on Saturday. Instead of trying to get the game rescheduled or just forfeiting the game, they're going to send a group of under 23 players and under 18 players. So they're basically sending, effectively, the reserve team and people from their academy to play the game.
I mean, for them, great opportunity.
Absolutely. So Chorley are only semi-professional. So with the greatest will in the world, you'd like to think that, 18 to 23-year-old professional footballers, regardless of the fact they've never played first team football before, or very little first team football, you would like to think they'd still have enough talent to be able to be a bunch of players who don't play professionally to the same standard.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So this is the statement that was given out by Derby. The first team and coaching staff are in isolation until early next week when they are retested. So the earliest they can get retested is Tuesday next week. So obviously by that point the tie will have been played.
Yep.
The first team and coaching staff are in isolation until early next week when they are retested, said Derby Chief Executive Stephen Pearce. But we will be able to fulfil our fixture against Chorley, as the Football Association regulations are slightly different to the EFL. If you've got 14 registered players, and it doesn't matter whether they are academy registered or first team registered, you are obliged to fulfil the fixture if you can, unless for other reasons if you want to apply. We still have 16 players we are still able to put out on Saturday. As a club, we're quite pleased to do that, and we're keen to get the game up and running. It's a great opportunity for those guys, and for Pat Lyons and Gary Bowyer, who will be taking the team on the weekend. So, it then goes on, that's the statement that Derby have given out. It then goes on to say further, on another fixture, this is all coming from Sky Sports. honouring the fixture is providing a logistical nightmare for Derby because 6 members of their under-23 squad were promoted to train and play with the first team this week before the latest outbreak. So they're already sending the under-23s and the under-18s. That's already decimated by at least 6 players because they had been called up to the first team in preparation for the game anyway. So...
Wow.
It's crazy. So we'll just have to wait and see. So that's the base. That's the main sort of talking point, I suppose, from a FA Cup / COVID perspective. There's also doubts over the FA Cup third round tie between Shrewsbury and Southampton after several Shrews players returned positive coronavirus tests. Certain individuals now enter a period of isolation. The club has informed Shropshire Public Health, the EFL and the FA of the situation, and discussions will continue. No club will automatically have to forfeit an FA Cup game if they are affected by coronavirus, with each case to be assessed by the FA on its individual circumstances. All teams taking part in this weekend's FA Cup games have to be tested 72 hours before the fixture. So that will put us to... I don't know if there are any fixtures on Friday. Let's have a look. Because normally the week's fixtures will start on the Friday night. Yeah, so we've got 2 games this Friday. We've got Aston Villa versus Liverpool and Wolves versus Crystal Palace. So all those players will have been tested today as a minimum.
Yep.
Nope, that's bollocks. Yesterday. Because at least 72 hours, so they'd have had to be tested on Tuesday to be ready for Friday.
Yeah.
So the rest of the teams that are actually going to be competing on either Saturday, Sunday, or the following Monday will be tested in the next couple of days. I don't think it'll be the last that we'll hear of it. As in, there'll probably be more teams that are going to be affected because you'll have teams that are still recovering. So obviously our game against Rotherham on Boxing Day was cancelled because they had a coronavirus outbreak. I'd imagine they're over the worst of it and they're back to fairly normal, but who knows? So there you go. Interesting stuff.
Indeed. Anything else from the week?
Not particularly. No, nothing major that I can see. No.
Okay then. Well, casting our minds back to a time when there was Nottingham Forest football predictions, I have 2 games from last week that, as it turned out, you and I predicted. The first of those 2 games was a Nottingham Forest football game. And, I mean, it's like his spirit has been channeled into every fibre of this game. Preston North End versus Nottingham Forest. So, your good self, you didn't think Forest were going to take a win on this one. My good self, I didn't think they were going to take a win, but I didn't think they were going to take a loss. I thought they would take a draw. In actual fact, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Nottingham Forest went 1-0 in this game. And who should score that goal? Lewis Graban.
Is the wispy bearded wonder himself, Lewis Graban.
Can you believe it? A Forest win with a Graban goal. It's like he was in the room. What that does mean score-wise is neither you or I, Mr. Williams, was able to take any points out of that game for scores. However, one of us was shrewd enough to have the foresight to think Graban's due a goal. And I went with Graban to score. So 1 point. And that might be significant later on. Which brings us swiftly to Wycombe Wanderers versus the mighty Borough. I can only imagine that when Wycombe scored, Paul Williams was on his knees going, why? Why, Wycombe? Why would you do this to me? Mr. Williams, what was the score in this here game?
Well, Andrew, I almost feel responsible for certain parts of this game because now I think we've discussed this on the podcast before. My good lady partner quite likes interesting footballers' names. When we were discussing the game before kickoff, I noticed that one of Wycombe's players had quite an interesting sounding surname, and I said to her, "Ooh, look, the guy who's playing up front for Wycombe, he's got a good name. He's called Uche Ikpiatsu." And she was like, "Ooh, I like that one. That's good, that's good." And of course, Karma being the fickle, cruel bitch mistress that she is, within 3 minutes struck, and he found the back of the net for Wycombe. So
He did.
Luckily for me, though, the Borough boys didn't take this lying down, and they bounced back. They whipped themselves up into a frenzy and managed to score 3 goals in reply.
3 goals. 3 goals that you yourself correctly predicted, sir. Unfortunately, you didn't give the Wycombe Wanderers the chance that they so rightly deserved, and missed out on a precious point. Both your good self and my good self did have the mighty Borough down for a win. That's all that really matters. Typically, if you'd have taken my prediction and your prediction and pushed them together, between us would have got that prediction, because I did give them 1 goal. Didn't manage to get the correct goal score, unfortunately. However, speaking of goal scorers, do you know who scored the 3 Middlesbrough goals?
I certainly do. On his return to the team, it was a goal for Marcus Brown.
Indeed it was.
There was another goal for Marcus Tavernier.
A lot of Marcus going on there.
And the third goal was scored by Marcus, for these purposes, Chubarakpong.
Now then, I feel I was ever so slightly robbed on this one, because this was clearly not the one alternating week where I go Chuba to score or Brit to score, and I went Brit, so I missed out on precious points there. However, you and I both were like, Tavernier absolutely going to get a goal this week, and he absolutely did. Points across the board. 2 points for you, Mr. Williams, with a Middlesbrough win predicted score and a Tavernier predicted goal. I predicted Middlesbrough to win, and I also predicted Tavernier to score. But if you cast your mind back, I took a point out of the Nottingham Forest game, giving a grand total of 2 points for you, sir, and 3 points for me. Thank you very much. It is a glorious moment in time. Now then. A usual book looks something like this, a little bit like this. Got a little bit of a box going on down here. Get your points in, you get your money in, get your. I mean, you got this guy going on down here. Whew, takes up all the page. That's it. That's all she wrote. And by she, of course, meaning me. I'm gonna pretty it up by making the smallest table ever, just to round it out. Now, I think at this point in time, we've absolutely got to talk about how Brentford have got to be Middlesbrough's nemesis by now. I mean, they must play. You must play Brentford like every other week at this point. It's non-stop. It's like, 1 week it's the one team and then the next week it's Brentford. I seem to write their name down all the time. I've messed it up already. I've done too many boxes for this wee table. Brentford versus Middlesbrough. What the money looks like and what the total numbers are. So, I unusually have not already predicted, but I'm just going to jot something down here to make it look like I actually have. Mr. Williams, this is your team, but as it now falls to me or you to go first, would you want to go first this week or would you want to go second, as is customary?
Well, I'll go first because I'll need to give you a little bit of sort of context around the game. So, they've made a change to the FA Cup games for this season, in that usually if there was a draw, you would get a replay. Not the case. It's a one-off game, where if the game is level after 90 minutes, there's extra time and then penalties.
Okay.
So, you might need to factor that in. So if you were going to for example, if you were going to suggest a draw, you'd then need to pick which team you thought would either win it on penalties or whether they'd win the game in extra time. Stuff like that.
Interesting. A new dimension to be added to the game.
Which is why I have picked a 1-1 draw.
1-1.
However, I do think we'll lose on penalties. So you can put 1-1, but then a little P on the side that's Brentford.
Okay. It is done. All I need from you, sir, is some goal scorers.
For the Brentford goal, I'll go for Tony. And for the Borough goal, I will go for Britt.
Okay. I, on the other hand, have got a lot more faith in the Borough. It's that simple.
Risky.
I know. I've gone 2-0 for the Borough boys. A little bit of recycling going on here, but basically I've gone Britt and Tavernier because Britt didn't score last time, so he's absolutely going to score this time. Simples. And I like putting Tav down because I think he loves a goal, does the lad.
Who do you want as the first goal scorer?
Put it down as it's written, so Britt.
Right, hang on. Just going to reset because I had a bit of a problem with the old Sky bet there.
I have a problem.
So I was just going to put on the scores as usual with the bets, but then I thought, no, because those bets will not be as high. Let's put a cheeky scorecast on, shall we, and get those odds a little bit higher.
I have a problem with Sky Bet as well.
Right, so did you say you picked Britt and Tav?
Tav, yeah.
Which one do you reckon will score first?
Britt.
So British Sombalonga and 2-0 Middlesbrough. 70-1.
Like it.
Whereas if I've gone for Ivan Toney and 1-1, mine is 17-1.
Wow. That's a bit of a difference there.
So there's our return.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Well, obviously that would bring us to the AOB section of the podcast, and there actually is some other business.
No.
And not only is it business, not only is it any other business discussion, it is actual business, because the transfer window is open and Middlesbrough have made a move.
Really?
Technically two moves.
Ooh.
One in, one out.
Oh.
So, leaving the club on a loan deal is goalkeeper Dejan Stojanovic. He's moved to FC St. Pauli in Germany on a loan deal till the end of the season.
Okay.
So that puts us a goalkeeper light. So in his place, we have signed Jordan Archer, who previously was playing for Millwall. He's also come to the Borough after a spell in Scotland with Motherwell. So he will now be the backup to Marcus Bettinelli.
Mm.
There you go.
Interesting. Moving
so
on.
obviously the transfer window stays open until the end of February. So I would imagine there'll be a few more ins and outs before the end of the transfer window. There's been rumours of people like Lewis Wing maybe moving on. Hayden Coulson maybe moving on. And then coming in, there's been a lot of talk of them trying to get wingers in. So at the end of the last transfer window, they were trying to put together a deal to sign Yannick Bolasie from Everton, but the deal didn't go through in time. So there was always talk that when the transfer window reopened, there was thought that deal would start up again. So there's talks there potentially. Other than that, there's a guy who used to play for Hull, who was at West Brom, called Kamil Grzycki, who you might recognise from the book.
Indeed.
There's talk of him potentially coming in. A rumour's come out today that they're looking into potentially taking Jack Clark, who was a winger from Spurs, who used to play for Leeds. I think he was born in York, actually, which is interesting. So there's talk of him coming in. Jack Clark was the kid who, when he was playing for Leeds, actually, he collapsed on the pitch at Borough. And there was a bit of sort of panic around that at first, but he's since recovered, and obviously he continued his career as that. But yeah, there was talk of him potentially being up for a move. And I'll see if there's anyone else that has been linked today. Nothing that's sort of come through on my feed massively, so a bit of a slow day, so we say. Yeah, but like I say, there'll be more people linked before the end of the window, and I'll be very surprised if Borough don't bring in at least a couple of players. So
watch this space. We'll fit very nicely into our This Week in Football section. Talk about movers and shakers.
Transfer talk.
Love it. Well, if that's the end of the any other business section, I have no other business because, I mean, you know, what business do I bring to the table? Table business, that's what I bring. Anything else from you, sir?
Nothing else from me, Andrew.
There we go, that is that. that, as they say. That is that. Thank you to you, sir, for joining me, taking these lovely people through the murky, murky waters of football. Let us know if you're having a cheeky flutter this week and what that looks like. And let us know if you, want to go up against our predictions. It's always space in the book, especially now. Or B, fancy yourself sitting on the sofa, so to speak, with Mr. Williams, talking Middlesbrough, or in fact, insert your team here, football. Give us a shout, usual place, usual back time, usual back channel. So there we go, that's it for this one. A new era dawns. Thank you, sir, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.
So there we go, what do you think of that? New podcast, very similar to old podcast, with a twist. Let us know what you think to the new name. Let us know if you think it needs a tweak or if you love it as much as I do. YouTube watchers, you can tell us how much you love things by clicking that subscribe button and helping the channel out. It is a big help. I know it's just a little click of a button, but it is a big help to us. So thank you. Everybody can jump over to thecookiecast.com. Check us out over there. You can drop us a line, drop us an email, drop us some social media love, any of that stuff. So there we go, that's it for this one. And until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I will see you then. Bye.